What's up, guys? Army-Firedawg is back again, and today I actually have the review time of the Soundaware Esther M1 Pro. This comes in two versions, the analog, which I reviewed quite a few months ago, and now this is their Pro version. This is their flagship model, to the best of my knowledge. This was sent to me by Soundaware for my opinion on it, and actually was a couple cool things that I actually didn't even think I was going to be able to review it, but I will describe all that in my full written review, which of course will be left in the description box down below if you would like to hear that. But let's just go ahead and jump on into this review and get it started, shall we? And of course, as always, I like to start with the construction of which. So the construction... And also, I'll apologize right quick. I'm not going to have time. I'm actually reviewing this in the middle of the work week because this has to be, actually I'm kind of 3 days behind sending this back. So it'll be no cool B-roll or any other special editing. It'll be more or less my traditional videos. Anywho, as you can see, the construction is as the M1 analog is. It's actually the same frame, but it's very nice. It's all aluminum on the front, back, sides, and bottom. And even the button layout is also really nice as well. The button layout is actually very user-friendly. I have no complaints at all with the button layout. As soon as I picked it up, I was able to figure it out. Simply your up and down, also your forward and reverse, play, pause, and select as well. Your menu option back. This goes back to the previous menu, and this is the main menu button itself as well. So in terms of its construction and build quality, no complaints. It is very, very well built. So very good job, Soundaware, on that regard. So how is the functionality of it? How is the user interface, the user friendliness, if you will? And on that regard, it's very difficult. So I'll go ahead and, right here, every time you start this up, it automatically goes back to this screen here. So I have two SD cards in here. I have the one Soundaware sent me to review with. And then I have my own personal review memory card as well. So there's two memory cards. And it always comes up with this screen, so you have play. So if, say I hit playing, every time I turn it on or off, nothing's there. Nope. Nothing. So I have to always go back. Always go to the home screen. If you hit the back button, it just sends you to this, and it shows you the previous song you played whenever you last had the device on. If you select that, that's all you have options to. So you have to actually hit the menu button, the main menu button, scroll over here, and then go to the actual music playlist, in which case you have to select which one you want. I always just choose all music, and then I just randomly select a song, and then in which case I will select from there. I have to do that every single time I turn this thing on or off. That is ridiculously frustrating. It has drove me nuts. And it's something for a product at this price point, being between $750 to $850 if you shop around a little bit, that I've been able to find. That's a user interface thing I don't believe should be there. In addition to that, say even if I wanted to find a certain song, I can go, say I go back to Music Library and I select album or genre, whatever it is. It seems like nothing that I have characterized is in the correct spot. So I'm just randomly searching for a song. Not one time, not once have I been able to personally say, okay, I want to listen to this song, let me go find it. I've never been able to find it. The sorting this thing has on here is just ridiculous. So for those of you who want something for just a grab it and play, it's great. You can do individual assortments of your folders. Make every single folder, like all of your songs in the A folder, B folder, C folder, etc. And then access that way. However, how I have mine on my computer and how my other DAPs register it, I make a folder of whatever artist it is, whatever CD is from that artist, and whatever, and that goes in songs that way. Find it, no problem. I know what song I want. Bam, done. That's awesome. That's what I want. That's what I like. I don't want to have to make a folder sorting all my songs just to be able for a certain DAP to register it. So that's another regard. I do believe the Soundaware dropped the ball quite a bit. Now, on a separate aspect from the audio is the battery life. And the battery life, too, is inexcusable. Now, while you're using this, the battery life is great. I usually get several hours. I can't quite give a number because for this reason I'll get into in just a second. But in terms of actual listening time, the battery life is wonderful. Now, with that being said, if I put this on sleep mode like it is right here, just sleep mode, your battery still drains as if the darn thing is playing. That is so frustrating. Every day I've had this review of the last 2 weeks, I have had to recharge it every time I've played it unless I turn the thing off. Even if I turn it off, it does still lose some battery, as every device does. This particular one, though, does drain a bit more than the standard audio player does when it's completely shut off. I mean, it's notable, it's a few percent. With it in sleep mode, it will die in the same amount of time frame it will. So if I leave it overnight just to continue listening for the next day, I have to charge it again. That is incredibly frustrating and inexcusable. I have nothing for that one, so that's a big negative I do have for this device. So an overall summary of the functionality, there's a lot of room for improvement. I do believe a simple software update can drastically help the software user interface. However, I don't know what they can do with the battery life aspect. But moving on is what you all probably most care about, and that is the sound quality of it. So how does the sound quality of the M1 Pro, which is, like I said, between 7 to 850, depending on where you want to shop from, how does it sound? Well, its claim is it has a nice, warm, it's a very relaxing sound, and overall, I will agree with that. It's a very relaxing sound to listen to once let me choose my words. If you've never had another DAP to compare it to, it is actually a very relaxing, you'll enjoy the entirety of this DAP. However, as I have especially recently expanded and reviewed quite a good selection of pretty higher end audio players, digital audio players, I hear quite a bit of detail. I've heard what makes a great audio player, what it is. And as far as going back to the Soundaware M1 Pro, it is immediately notable. The first hour I had this on, almost every song I listened to, I could notably notice missing details. The first one I listened to was and I don't know which song, it's just when I'm randomly listening to it on my way to the academy in the morning. But one of them was a Five Finger Death Punch song, which, yes, is not known for having detail in the background, but the song starts with the drums going, and then it builds up. Well, on every other DAP, you hear it very audibly, you know what it is. On here, it takes a long, like the drums got to really be hitting for you to really hear it. And I'm like, now hang on a second. And it continued on through the vast majority of songs, especially the ones that are audiophilistic, that have a lot of detail, especially the hidden ones in like the background, the left and right channels, so on and so forth. So in detail retrieval, this thing is drastically lackluster. I was very disappointed in that. Its ability to drive headphones, it's not the biggest powerhouse, however, it is very finessing. Simply playing, I don't have it in here, but my Bowers & Wilkins P7s. That's the primary headphone I listen to the majority of the time on it. I had to crank it up I had it about 70 to 75 on the volume. It has a 100 scale max. And as of y'all who keep up with me know, I don't listen to loud stuff. I like it where it's at a comfortable volume level, and that's about it. So if I have to crank it up 3/4 of the way what this amp has, on low gain setting, it has 3 settings, low, medium, and high gain. Everything I did was on low gain. I had to max out the amp on it. Or not max out, excuse me. Use 3/4 of the amp max out. Now, that's a bit ridiculous in my opinion. Now, and I'll leave the actual sound characteristics alone for a second. I also listened to it with my customs, here they are. My Empire Ears Hermes 6, which or like the standard for trying to find a pitch black background, because I'm always hearing hiss. I'm always hearing hum, something with it, because the Empire Ears line is incredibly sensitive. With the Soundaware M1 Pro, I will say the background was pitch black. There was not a spit of any hiss or hum or anything like that. And that is quite impressive. But I also found out, and this is another negative, I will go to it, potentially, your given application may change the negative it was for me, however. But the output impedance on the headphone jack here is 10 ohms. That is huge, considering the vast majority of other DAPs, etc., have less than 1. That very large increase in resistance does account for the volume increase. While I've had to increase things quite a bit louder than I normally would, what would count for the pitch black background of the custom ones, and what also, and I guess I'll go ahead and get into the sound qualities now, there is a notable treble, not necessarily a deficit, but a drop in the treble response. It's nowhere near, it doesn't get as high, it's nowhere near as clean, it's still smooth. It's a very, very smooth presentation upwards, but it just peaks really early. And I don't get that enjoyment out of the violins especially. I don't get nowhere near that. And the only thing I could attribute that to, and there was another reviewer, and Headfire I was talking about it with, who is much more experienced in the digital audio players than I am, but he said that would directly correspond with that, and it made perfect sense. He's actually who brought it to my attention, and like I said, it makes sense. Now, moving down to the mids on the Soundaware M1 Pro honestly, I don't have any complaints with the mids. The mids were actually quite forward. They were smooth. They had not necessarily detail retrieval. I've already mentioned my issues with that. However, it was very it breathed. I'm not great with audiophile terms, but it just had a lot of naturalness to the mids, and I really enjoyed the mid section. So if you listen to a lot of primary vocals or podcasts, if you put those on you will probably really enjoy the M1 Pro. Vocals are it just has a naturalness, a breath to it that I really did enjoy. Also, the upper bass line smoothed beautifully into the mids. It just meshed into one smooth transitional unit. I really enjoyed that aspect. So for some of the softer rock, country sounded wonderful. Certain orchestral music, but mainly in the country, things that are prominently mid-focused, did sound wonderful on the M1 Pro. It was a very, very relaxing experience with that regard. Now moving on to the lower bass, where you actually get the thump, it was also notably recessed. So just like you lost some highs, I did lose some lows in that same regard. The complete mids, because the lower treble range actually smoothed into the mids actually quite a bit well. Nowhere near as nice as the bass did. There was a little bit of a dip. Here's the mids, your highs right here, and about this section here, right before you get there was a notable dip right there. But overall, it was a very nice, smooth transition from the lower treble range to the mid bass to the whole entire mids. But getting back on track, it's been a long day, guys. Just bear with me. I'm quite tired. But the lower bass line it didn't have as much punch. I like songs that were very fun to listen to, very bassy. Like when I'm getting ready to pull in, I'm just getting myself psyched up for the day, for the morning workout. I'm listening to some heavy rock music, some metal music, get myself ready to go. I didn't get that with that, which was quite disappointing. I'm used to getting some on songs that I purchased specifically for that reason. And that was a kind of an upset that the M1 Pro did not give it to me. So overall sound quality, for full audiophilia, it did fall pretty lackluster on that regard. If you are very specific and looking for a very specific audio range, this is again the mids, like podcasts, very vocal, focused audio, the M1 Pro excelled very, very nicely in that regard. But overall, guys, to sum up the M1 Pro, I'm not sure if this is going to be a long or a short video, but the construction is rock solid. There is zero complaints with the construction, the build quality, the button layout, everything about the body itself of the M1 Pro, spot on. Very nicely done, Soundaware. The software user interface is not great. It's not the worst in the world. It just needs to have some memory. Such a few software updates is all that would need to be very, very nice and probably have minimal, if any, complaints to it. It has potential, but it's a very primitive. That's the word I could probably use to describe it. It's a very, very primitive user interface. Battery life is just abysmal. There is no excuse for the battery life. I cannot give any excuse for why the battery dies like it does. Sound quality, for full what I would personally want in a DAP, which is I want to hear all the detail that's present in the soundtrack, and I'll have the headphones that give me the sound characteristics I want. I think it could have been more universal, especially in the price point that it's asking. However, for those who are very niche-minded or need a very specific or frequency range that you look for, and you know what it is, and you know what you like, the M1 Pro, which is the mids, the M1 Pro will likely serve you very, very well. But if you all have any questions about anything I've reviewed, anything going on otherwise, or just want to chat, hit me up in the comments down below. I will very happily reply to each and every one of you as fast as I can get to you. So far, I've been able to reply to most of your comments relatively quickly. Even being in the academy on my breaks, I kind of review and reply to who I can, as fast as I can. But anywho, if you think there's something I may have missed, please bring it to my attention, and I will try my best to correct it. But if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button on your way out. I do greatly appreciate that support. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'd like to see you come back more often and check out some more of my videos. I'm a little bit on a down spree with the Fire Academy going on, but a few more months and I'll be hitting this thing really hard. But as always, guys, my name is Army-Firedawg. It has been a pleasure, but most importantly, and please I ask of you, my friends, stay safe.